I'll call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Can you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would the clerk take the roll call, please?
Roberta Garlock. Here. Arthur Gilbert.
Present.
Bridget Hosky. Here. Stephen Idarola.
Here.
Tony Mancini.
Here.
Gail Tagliatella.
Here.
Leilani Perry.
Here.
And Arthur Kelly.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The mayor would like to address the commission. Mayor, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I apologize. I have to leave about 6:15 because I have another meeting over at the police department. But I wanted to just first of all thank all of you. I know the process is not over, but you have done the lion's share of the work to this date. I think when you look at this tracker and you see all this green, it's a lot you've accomplished, and you've accomplished it in record time. Most municipalities take 18 months. That's what's typical. When I first called Steve and I said, I knew he had the experience, and I said, we come to West Haven. He said, it's got to go on this agenda. And he said, no, it's impossible. I was like, no, this is West Haven. We're going to get it done. And I didn't pick, the council picked the right crew to get it done. So I just want to make sure I thank you. I think this has been a great, fair process. It's been good conversation. I've learned throughout the process, some of the things regarding the charter. And I'm continued to be here as a resource, and any information if you want to bounce things off of me, because you still got a few steps to go. But just want to thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
And I'd like to echo the statement that the council put together a good group, because I agree with that. We have a very good group, and very pleased with the participation. And also want to thank both attorneys Cassini and Mednick, because without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. So thank you. Okay, let's get into discussion and action if necessary. Attorney Cassini.
All right, you have lots
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot the approval of the meeting minutes.
Oh, yeah. Please do that.
Thank you, Stacy. If you could take a look at the meeting minutes from May 12th, and when ready, make a motion.
So
We have a motion by Member Gilbert,
Second.
second by Member Mancini. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, Attorney Cassini, thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We have lots of documentation here tonight. The two biggest stapled packets are the same. One is the actual red line. If you flip through, you'll see it's actually red and underlined. Those are your changes. The second is a clean draft that contains notes and comments in the margin. But this is, pending action tonight, essentially your draft that will be floated out. This is what will be considered by the public in advance of next Thursday's public hearing. So tonight, we're going to address a couple of action items and discussion items, but the biggest is to go through the draft itself, section by section. Now, some of them we don't need to talk about because there aren't changes, but for those that are, we need to make sure that it says not only what we mean it to say, but what we've decided it's supposed to say. So there's meaning and there's language, right? So this gets into the differentiation of the two types of changes we've made. There are substantive changes that we've talked about, which change the structure, change the actions, the tasks, the responsibilities. And then there are the Scrivener's changes that you'll hear Attorney Mendick and I speak about tonight. That's everything from we forgot to capitalize a definite article, to that word is capitalized and it's not in the definition, so it shouldn't be, to simply we have errata like a comma, someplace where it shouldn't be. We're missing one like that. All that stuff is important too. We want to get to the substantive and the Scrivener's changes. And so we're going to go through it. We've found that it's beneficial to have lots of different eyes on these things. I thank Attorney Mednick for the time he's spent on this. But the New York Times does this pretty well. They routinely reward folks who are just readers that will find errors, even though they've got reams of editors now. And so we're going to try to open this up for everybody. If you see something that you think is incorrect, say it. Don't just presume that because we put it in there that it's right, because I make grammatical mistakes all the time. There are footnotes that will point you to the directions. You'll remember that the footnotes will tell you if it's either a new change or a new addition, or it's language from the old charter. And Attorney Mednick's done an extraordinary job footnoting almost every single block of text that's in here. So we're going to go through them. If you have questions about anything, even if it's something that we haven't discussed already, now's your night to bring it up. And if you have questions about something that you think we have discussed, but you either don't remember the answer or you weren't satisfied, tonight's your night. Okay? I thank you all for your time. Look at the colored sheet, and you'll see that almost everything has turned green. When we began this process, I told you this was a process 14 to 18 months. In most municipalities, you're going to do it in fewer than 20 weeks when this is all said and done. The last action item for us to discuss was something that was brought up on Tuesday, which was language proposed by me that would mandate a consultation with the Personnel Department or the Corporation Counsel's office, whichever is more appropriate, for the boards and commissions that engage in or that have the power to hire, fire, progressive discipline. I also put in there if any of them should have the authority or the power to contract or engage in the procurement process. That's not something that happens currently. Maybe in the future it would be. That's not something that the state generally permits for boards and commissions to act outside of a finance department. But consider that belt and suspenders for the future, I guess. So the first thing I'd like to do is take up two sections of language that you see as action items. One is stapled to, and one I just handed over to you that are proposed. The first is the one that I just discussed, the separate loose paper that I just handed you. Departments and department heads. Yeah, that's it. Chapter 7, Operations and Functions, WPCA. We talked about that. Yes. We talked about that at length on Tuesday. The proposal originally had been to have our Water Pollution Control Administrator report not to engineering, but rather to Department of Public Works. But in that discussion came up that our current administrator is on the same pay level and is seen as a colleague to the Department of Public Works commissioner. And so doesn't it make more sense to have it as a standalone department? And so that's what this language would do. This language mimics as closely as possible the language that addresses the head of the Public Works Department, who we call commissioner. There's one wrinkle here, which is the Department of Public Works doesn't have a public commission or board, and the WPCA does. We call it the commission. And so there's some additional language in here. But this Water Pollution Control Administrator clause would fit in the Operations and Functions section of the Departments and Department Heads, Chapter 7.
So you have this administrator reporting directly to the mayor as any other department head.
Yes, that's right. And I specifically called that out because that was a point of discussion. It says there, second to last sentence, this administrator shall report to the mayor.
I make a motion to accept.
Member Hosky has made the motion. Gail Tagliatella has seconded. Any discussion on this? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
So with the benefit of extra eyes, Attorney Mendick just pointed out, I have a may, but I'm missing the be of the may be deemed. So that's a good example of a Scrivener's correction that'll be made.
He's fixed a lot of my mistakes, so this is like
Thanks
what's
to
good for the goose.
thanks to 4 eyes rather than 2. Thank you. With that, Scrivener's edit and any other grammatical changes that may be necessary, I'll put that into the draft. The last one that we have is the only recommendation that remains yellow. Recommendation number 20, the language that will mandate the departments. I've given you some options here. I'll strongly recommend one over the other. I think the first one is the best. That's why I put it up there first. I think Attorney Mendick agrees with me. I know that the mayor agrees with me. Read through, ask any questions, but the idea is that any board or commission, authority, or other body of the city that's empowered to hire, fire, or engage, or removal, or engage in discipline, or who engages in contracting, procurement, or obligating city funds must do so with counsel of either the personnel director or the corporation counsel as applicable. Obviously, we both don't need to weigh in on every single one. And it could be that mandating a written concurrence is unnecessary. Maybe that bogs things down. Short of that, I wouldn't change it much, because if I sound like a broken record, it's because I am. We're really trying hard to make sure that everybody understands the rules of engagement here and everybody plays by those same sets of rules. And this would be just another set of eyes over things. So personnel policies should run through the personnel department, because that's the person that we have tasked with in this building, the mayor has appointed, to understand all the workings and connectivity between the labor and the management, between the CBA and the bodies that engage, the departments that engage those members of those unions. Just the same, the Corporation Counsel's Office is tasked with a fairly robust process of redlining and issuing our own contracts that respond to RFP, RFQ, and winning bids, to make sure that in every contract that obliges the city, a certain set of words and phrases and clauses are present so that we can make sure that we properly trigger all the adequate protections that the state has allowed. And if there are any other bodies out there that are engaging in contracting outside of that, I can't be sure that they're also doing the same thing. So if you think that I'm suggesting this runs to a liability exposure, that's exactly right. But also, there's a consistency. The state mandates that if private enterprise wants to do business with a city, they are obligated to understand the rules by which they can do so. That's not an onus on the city. That's an onus on the private enterprise, on the private entity that's engaged in business. If we are inconsistent in applying our rules, that standard that the state has to hold them to falls apart. And so it's just, yet again, another layer of protection. As you know, the state law has many protections against liability for municipalities. They are robust and they are effective so long as we understand how we have to comply also to make sure that they can be as protective as they are. And one of those things is making sure that the contracts all have the exact same things in them, to the extent that they can all be reflective of one another. That's my idea with this.
Can I ask a question?
Member Hosky, yes.
So I'm just trying to understand and make sure that it says in the first one, all duly executed contracts, including collective bargaining agreements, all city personnel, and all requirements governing hiring. So does that, by virtue of what that says, govern the hiring and the contract for all chiefs? And I'm saying that because, again, I'm wondering why the fire chief is, outlined in this paragraph, but when I look for chief under the police department, it doesn't have that same type of, and for consistency base, I don't know why it doesn't, doesn't, both of them don't have both, or no one has anything, and that governs it. Does that make sense, like what I'm asking?
I think so. I don't see mention of the fire chief or the police. Are you talking about the one we were talking about on
Because
Tuesday?
On Tuesday, remember I said about the police chief having the same words, but then I just went back to the fire chief. There shall be a fire chief appointed by the Board of Fire Commissioners with the approval of the mayor. I'm wondering why under the fire section of the charter it states that, but it appears to me that this paragraph is stating that also. Is it, or it's not?
Yeah, I think, well, this is boards, commissions. So if that's a fire commission that you're talking about, then that would certainly fall under that. Yeah. I guess I agree with you. It's present in both places, specifically to the fire department and more generally here.
Okay, so this here being general will ensure that the mayor has a say about the contract and the hiring, the firing in the police department or any department, because the city is liable.
The city is liable, yeah. Attorney Bendick.
This would go not to the issue of the selection of the chief. This would go to the content of the contract to make sure the contract was compliant with state law and with local charter and other case law, whatever it may be. But it would apply to all boards and commissions. And perhaps broader than that. It doesn't eradicate the issue you raised the other night. There's a distinction, and that's a separate matter. No, not. I'm not lecturing. This is broader, dealing with every board and commission, maybe departments and officials. The Corp Council will talk about that in a few minutes. But everybody has to come to the Corp Council, including the Board of Ed, for that matter, and hopefully the association as well, the library group, would have to do it as well under these ideas. But the ideas, and it's funny because just last week I was relaying to the Corporation Council a problem I had in another community where Corp Council made a statement to the following effect: "Oh, I disclose every contract I know about." Hear what I just said? I know about. The Corp Council should know every contract. And if the Corp Council doesn't know, it means somebody is committing fraud, somebody's trying to circumvent, etc. The general rule has got to be that the Corp Council gets all the contracts. Personnel also gets all the information they need to make judgments about hiring, firing, disciplining, suspension, whatever it may be, negotiating collective bargaining agreements if it's done through that office. And that's what this attempts to do. Your issue, which is a legitimate issue, is a question of what's the mayor's authority with regard to the police chief.
Any chief. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to just, I'm just saying you have the authority at the fire chief level. It's a fire chief, it's a police chief, yeah. It's a chief of. The authority should be consistent throughout.
Yeah.
Why would we make change for one and not have it consistent? So.
I'd like to make a comment. I'm wondering. I believe that the mayor has always had approval of the police chief, and that no mayor ever did not approve of a police chief that they eventually hired. As long as I've been around.
It should be easy to put in the charter.
Well, but how this developed was because the fire chief was taking the stand that he reported to the commission, the fire commission. But since Allentown, this is a unique situation since it came under the city. Now he should also be able to report to the mayor. And that's why this came about. I understand what you're saying, but I think the mayor does have the authority to approve the police chief, or any other department head. I could be wrong.
So it's not a union, so precedent, when you go into a grievance, say, well, precedent is, I've always had this. So can the police commissioners refer to, oh, no, you actually documented it right here. You're saying that the mayor only has approval at the fire chief. You gave up your approval for the police chief because you didn't put it in the charter.
I have to apologize. I don't have that in front of me. I did that on Tuesday, and then I jettisoned it from my brain when we got done. I started working on the rest of it. I don't have that text in front of me. I'm sorry.
Well, we could pass it down.
I got it.
Art, I had a question.
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
Mr. Mednick, do you know if the mayor has the authority to approve a police chief?
I don't know what the practice is. I have to rely on the chair for what your past practice has been in the community. But the commissioner is correct that the language that was drafted by council and approved the other night on the fire says appointed by the commission, subject to approval by the mayor. It does not say that on the police chief. So the practice may be the practice, but the language is not the same. It's inconsistent language, and so you can rely on past practice, but you can't. It'd be hard to enforce something based on a past practice that's not a union matter. To your point, and so so there is a distinction in the language.
I think somebody brought up maybe a week ago that we can't rely on everyone understanding how things have been done. So maybe that's the point.
So,
Just because everyone has gone along with it doesn't necessarily mean.
as to Member Hosky's point, then it's simple enough to put it into the charter.
Simple enough textually, sure. I haven't broached it with anybody. I don't know what would happen. We can look at that, but that's something that's outside of this chapter 7. That's in a different chapter. And I don't have that text right in front of me. I can work it up quickly if that's something that somebody would like to see. Maybe in new business or something like that. But I didn't have that prepared for tonight.
Well, again, I guess we can vote on it as to whether we want to have you work something up quickly.
You could.
As a commission, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the wording for the police chief match the fire chief, that there shall be a...
We have a motion, a second.
I'll second.
Second, Tony. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Abstained? None.
Section 8.
Motion carries, so we're going to ask you to come up with something quickly so that we can incorporate it into our final draft that we recommend. Thank you.
Sure. It could be a good time then to continue with Attorney Mednick and go through the portions of the charter.
Yes, thank you.
I was just looking at the section here. I'll show it to you. It's a pretty simple fix. Take a look. Shall be appointed with approval of the mayor. The chief shall be appointed by the Board of Police Commissioners for an indefinite term. That's also different language. With approval of the mayor. Why can't I have that? We can always fix it later, but that's all it has to do with approval of the mayor. Is the only fix.
So take that subordinate clause.
Yeah, if they want to do it right now, it's not a difficult. I mean, I'll put it in the final version if they want.
No, I can go type something else.
All right, very good. All right, good. All right.
Could I ask?
We didn't.
Yes, go ahead.
Did we approve this?
Hold on.
We didn't approve this.
We haven't gotten to it yet.
Oh, that's
We're still in the middle of that conversation.
So I have another question. I was watching the city council meeting from the other night, and at about 38 minutes in, there was a question as far as we present our suggestions to the city council. The city council can then make edits and send back to us what they do and don't agree with. And then it said we can either accept or still keep it the way we have it. So we're just gonna, I know what, I'm gonna talk about the elephant in the room. About the 4-year term for the city council. So we said it's going to stay at a 2-year term. That's our recommendation. It is my understanding that many are not excited about that and they want a 4-year term. So they would send that back to us for the 4-year term. This body can then vote again to keep it at a 2-year term. But when we send it back, it was my understanding by what was discussed that the city council at that time can change it to a 4-year term.
So let's talk about the scenario. Let's say after the public hearing, you propose a charter with a provision that grants the mayor a 4-year term but retains the 2-year term for the council. Goes to the council, that's the way they receive it. Let's say the council wants to have a 4-year term. There's a number of permutations out there. Let's just go with the simple one. That they have an identical 4-year term and the identical election cycle. So they're both elected in the same cycle. It comes back to you. So what that would be called is recommendation number one. Recommendation number one from the council to the commission is that the city council should have an identical 4-year term on the same election cycle as the mayor. I'm keeping it simple. Let's say there's nothing else. Just pretend that that's the only item that they send back to you. It comes to you, and you can approve it, which is the easy thing to do because you know they'll approve it when you send it back to them. Or you can vote against their 4-year term and retain the 4-year term for the mayor. And then when it goes to them, in all probability, they would then reject the 4-year term for the mayor. They cannot amend the 2-year term for the council up to a 4-year term if you do not make that recommendation. So they can, what they would be able to do, if you rejected their recommendation and you sent it back this identical way that you're sending it over to them next week or two, a week or two from now, their only choice would be to reject the 4-year term for mayor.
Okay, so let's play this out. The council comes back and says, we recommend a 4-year term for the city council. Why wouldn't we go along with that?
I suggested that the easy way to accommodate them is to go along with it, and then you know when you propose it back to them, they're going to support it. They could still reject the 4-year term for mayor.
If they, as a body, the majority of them, vote to have a 4-year term, I don't know why we would not go along with that.
I could give you how many reasons do you want? No one person should vote for the betterment of themselves. It's a conflict of interest. You should abstain from it. And to think that anyone on that body would even consider to vote down, the mayor had no say in whether or not they get a 4-year term. They posed it. We as a body, the commissioners that they chose to be on this commission are doing a job. And I know I have done my due diligence. I have spent many hours and mulled over it. They, speaking for themselves, for the betterment, I mean, if you look it up, if you're involved in the fire department, you should abstain. If you're involved in the police department, you should abstain. I was a coach for the high school when I was on the city council, and I questioned whether or not I should vote on the Board of Ed. If the 9 of us or the 8 of us now, we were chosen by then to do this job. We knew that's what they wanted. Many of them came here. And their arguments to have it were, well, we need a top of the ticket to get the vote out. Well, the charter should be, is it apolitical? Is that the word for it? Nothing in our charter should help anyone get elected. Well, we'll have low voter turnout. The charter does not have anything to do with the amount of voters you get out. And it is, I mean, we can ask probably 10 to 15 city council people that did not have a top of the ticket and they still won their seat. Melly Garthwaite, Barry Cohen, 10s and 20. I mean, they do it all the time. But for us to be able to do something at the betterment, because it's actually it's for the people that are actually in the seat. To me, it's a conflict of interest, and you're doing something for your own personal gain. So no, we shouldn't do it just because they want it.
I don't think it's for their own personal gain myself.
It's not a technical legal conflict. The council member.
I'm saying how it presents to me.
Well, no,
Yes.
there's an appearance, but there's also you could also argue there's an appearance of a conflict when you're voting to reduce your taxes,
It's more
which councils have an city councils have an obligation. When there's a generalized matter that's before them, it's not technically a conflict, whether they have a personal benefit or not. The individualized things you talked about, if they have an interest in the Board of Education, they have a job at the Board of Ed or the police department or something like that, that's a different matter. Let me just point out for the record that when this goes before the council, myself and the Corp Council will make a presentation. And I will talk to them about the merits. You're making some very good points, Commissioner. I will talk to them about the merits of the proposal that you are making, if you make it the way you are planning on at this point, why it was done that way, and also say that there's another way that it can be done as well. If they want a 4-year term, they can go on a different cycle. And the truth of the matter is that if the mayor's not at the top of the ticket, there will be a reduced, depressed vote. Hartford, in the early part of the century, we experimented. They have 4-year cycles for council and mayor, and they're on the same cycle. They didn't take my advice on that, and they went on the same cycle. The Board of Ed had an off cycle, so they were in the off cycle. And a lot of people thought, rather than consolidate the Board of Ed and have their elections in one cycle, that it would make a lot of sense to have it in a separate cycle because people are really interested in education. They'll come out and vote. It did not bear out over the years. The percentages of people voting in the Board of Ed only cycle was pretty low. The idea of having the council in a separate cycle from the mayor, whether it's a 4 and a 2-year term cycle, or it's 2 4-year cycles. The way it would work is the mayor's cycle would start in 2027, and the council cycle would start in 2029. They would run in alternate biennial municipal elections, and it becomes a check. It becomes a check on the power of the mayor. So if the voters in the community are very upset with a mayor, they'll elect a new city council. If there's a weak city council and the mayor is looking for support, the mayor will go out and fight the city council in the off election. So it really does lend itself to the balance of power. There will be a reduced turnout, and if you're a dependent person, if you're dependent on the top of the ticket, it will not be beneficial to you necessarily, but to those people who go door to door and work hard, the document should be neutral to those people, and those people should be able to do it. So we'll make those arguments. We will lay it out for them, and they'll make an informed judgment on how they want to approach it. You then have to make your judgment, and it will depend on what impact it will have on everything else you're doing. So I'm not saying that you should vote one way or the other. But one thing you can do is just accommodate them on all their recommendations. I'm not necessarily suggesting that that is what you do, but that's the easy course, depending on what they say. I also will recommend that if they want to have parity in terms of terms, leave it broad enough so the item can have room for discussion. Don't make it absolutely that you have to have it in the same cycle, because there might be a compromise that builds on the other argument, that they could have their 4-year term, but they're going to be on a different cycle because there's some good public policy that supports that. So leave that open so that the commission and the council can negotiate with each other and come up with a common solution. If they don't have the initial consent, or they don't initially agree, they can come to a resolution. So we'll have plenty of time to talk to them when it's over there.
We could also recommend that if we did decide that we wanted to go along with a 4-year term, it doesn't have to start till another year, too.
Exactly.
I have something to say.
We talked about that. One of the ways that I have taken the specter of a conflict of interest away is we did this in Norwalk, I did this in New Haven, I did this in Hamden. We didn't start the 4-year cycle for I think at least 4 years for a mayor, and then 6 years for the council. And then people can't argue that the members of the council were voting for themselves. If you look at yourself as wanting to be there in 6 years, then okay, you may be voting for yourself, but I think the bulk of members of the city council do not hang around that long. and therefore you're voting in the future. But that was a very
Member Garlock.
I think being on different boards and watching the council for the last 10, 11 years, morally, me as an individual, if I was a member on council, I would not be able to vote on whether it was 2 or 4 years. I would recuse myself, and I would hope that the council who would be voting on that 2 or 4 years would do the same. And that's my comment.
Okay.
Art, I had a
Thank you.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a little unclear. Weren't you just using that as an example for when we return the draft to the city council, or were we rediscussing the matter?
No,
Oh,
it's
for-
using it as an example.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Okay, because I was all for a 4-year term for that.
yeah. I'm just giving you an example of
Okay.
what can be
Yeah.
done.
Go ahead, Art.
Yeah, no, I don't think that anybody, you wouldn't be doing it for your own interest because you choose to run for office. People choose. They don't go because there's something to gain by it. So if we look at it from that perspective, we're entirely wrong because they're making their decision to run for office based on their feelings and what they want to do for the community. So I can vote either way on this. It doesn't make a difference to me, but I think it just makes things a little bit difficult to try and understand for everybody because it's just, I believe in the 4-year term for both or the 2-year term. It doesn't make a difference to me. It doesn't affect my life.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, this is a theoretical argument. Why don't you see what they have to say, and then you could debate the issue
that's
when
what
it comes
that's
back
what
to
I
you.
thought.
Yeah, it's we're. I mean,
Yeah.
we're anticipating
Yeah.
possibly this coming back to us.
Yep. Yep.
I have no idea how many council members are for it, but they, as a body, will vote on it and decide whether they want to recommend that or not. And that's when we'll have to handle it from our end, decide what we recommend.
Yeah.
quick
I was
Yes.
already approached by someone on council saying one of the issues they would have is the 2-year term
Yes.
thing.
I've heard that of a few members, but I don't know if everybody is the council as a whole feels that way, or they're trying to figure out whether they want a 4-year term or not. I don't know.
But the thing that I struggle with is the absolute possibility that if they don't get their way, they're not going to vote for the other 4-year terms. To think that could even be a possibility would prove I wouldn't even want them on the council anymore.
Well, then that's when the next election would be the opportunity.
That's why you have elections, Mr. Chair. The other thing I want to say is that
One quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Does this affect the current terms, or is this for the next election?
Next election, you cannot interrupt a term of office. What you can do is change all the terms of office. For example, right now you have 4-year terms for certain offices, and if you want to go to a 2-year, just put everybody on a 2-year cycle. Everybody can go on a 2-year cycle. But let's say you were to do that, and the Board of Ed is a 4-year cycle, and you were to move to a 2-year cycle, you'd have to have a step down. People have to finish their 4-year terms, and then their replacements will run for a 2-year term. And it works its way the other way as well if you're moving from a 2 to a 4-year term, depending on what you are. So you have total flexibility here. My recommendation is you debated the issue. You have a recommendation. Let's see what the council has to say.
Yeah.
But just to let you
And-
know, you have a broad ability to
And
change
again,
the terms.
depending on what they will come back with, will depend on what we do as a commission.
Yeah, and if I could just quickly make a comment, I want to defend my colleagues on the city council because there has been no official discussion amongst the body about anything pertaining to the charter. So if individual council people have an opinion, they're certainly entitled. There's 13 of us that are 13 different people that'll have maybe 13 different opinions. So I think. Again, we're talking in a theoretical, and I think it's healthy to kind of know what your options are. But at the end of the day, I would agree. Let's wait to see what comes back because we have not officially came out on any item at this point.
Thank you. Any other comments on this?
Let me just say logistically, if members of the city council don't like portions of it, it's presented to them in a way that they take up each recommendation that comes out of this body individually. So it's not packaged all together. They don't have to vote for all of it all at once. and the recommendations of the notes that come back from you should be pointed to each specific recommendation that this body makes.
Okay. Continue to move on.
Before we start going chapter by chapter, I think the Corp Council has language on the police chief, and he also had the language he was talking about earlier.
Yes, we have that one pending, but let's discuss what I just worked up for you. You should have gotten a new printout circled around. Chapter 7, Section 8, Public Safety Functions.
So the chief of police shall be appointed by the Board of Police Commissioners with approval of the mayor for an indefinite term. Within 6 months of such appointment and during the entire tenure of office, the chief shall be an elector of the city of West Haven.
Right, elector is only read there because it's lowercase e in your existing charter. We're capitalizing it because it's now a defined term. But the active clause that now I think mirrors what you voted on previously with regard to the fire department is with approval of the mayor.
Okay. So if satisfactory, like a motion,
I move to accept the amended content for the Department of Police.
we have a motion by Member Perry, second by Member Idarola. Any discussion?
I do.
Yep.
So I'm just curious why the police chief says with approval of the mayor for an indefinite term, but that's not under the fire chiefs.
It says that because that's your charter right now. I'm not sure
Okay,
why.
no, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know why it's indefinite term for police and not for fire chief.
I didn't know,
Other than historically, obviously, your fire departments have been very, very different than your fire department, your police department. Whoever it is decided when they were making that last charter that was important at the time.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay, we'll add that to what will be your draft.
Thank you.
There is but one remaining, stapled to the end of the checklist. We had begun this discussion before we decided to take up Section 8 of Chapter 7. This is back to the boards, commissions, authorities, other bodies being required to, if they're engaging in contracting, to come to the Corporation Counsel's office for advice and counsel. And if they're engaged in hiring, firing, removal, discipline of some kind, to do the same with the personnel director.
I make a motion to do the first one.
We have a motion by Member Hosky to approve the first paragraph submitted.
Second. Sorry.
Tie for second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstains?
And this
Motion carries.
This will go into the board and commission section.
Yes, I believe this is appropriate for boards and commissions.
Okay. We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
All right, I got it.
That concludes my portion of the evening, at least for now. Sure.
Thank you.
And let me just put this in. Here we go. All right. Do you want me to start going through?
Yes, please.
Hopefully this will not take a lot of time, but we will walk through chapter by chapter. The first thing could have been a Scrivener's change. This is right on page C1 in the red line. Just above chapter 1, there's two sections that deal with construction of charter words and phrases. And all I wanted to do, and I didn't want to presume to do it, is at the end of the definitions, we have on page C7, if you just jump ahead quickly, use of terms. One deals with how we deal with the word shall, must, required, and how you deal with voting issues. I want to recommend, with your permission, that we move A and B into the use of terms section. So it's all in one place because it's related to that. Now, B is really kind of moribund, actually. It really doesn't mean anything because we've taken all the pronouns out of the document, but it still doesn't hurt to have that language in here that when a title which denotes gender is applied to an individual, it shall suit the gender of the individual. We could leave it in or take it out, but I would just want to recommend that we just move both of those things to the end of the definitions.
I make a motion to accept the attorney's recommendation to move both of those things.
You have a motion,
Second.
second by Garlock. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. The second is on the next page. This is an issue that was raised by the Corporation Council, and we didn't have a chance to talk about it today, so I hate to talk to them in public about it. There was a reference to the Allentown Fire Department, and the question is, it was a savings clause regarding the special act provisions pertaining to those. And while we have moved the Allentown Fire District into the charter in some regards, I would leave it the way it is right now and preserve those special acts, just in case there's something in the special act.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
I'll retract my second comment there.
Right.
I'll answer it for myself. Should this go? No.
So I thought it was a simple answer to resolve it that way.
It cleans it up to do something with it, but the potential for something that is unforeseen is much worse than the positive that comes out of cleaning it up. So
I agree with
I
you.
say we leave it.
So we don't need a motion to do that.
No, you're just watching us.
Just watching, yeah.
Just
You're
watching
just
us debate right now.
Yes,
Watching
okay.
us
Yep.
we're kibitzing.
Can it be worded Allentown Fire District, also known as the City of West Haven Fire Department?
We will, no matter where it appears, it will always appear as the new name and title that you've given it, yeah, or that you've recommended it be given. Yes.
I'll make sure we do that.
That will happen everywhere.
Right. We'll fix that. It's happened everywhere but in this one spot. I left it historically because it was a historical section. I did not make the change, but I'll do an AKA, also known as, to make sure it's clear that that's the case. So anything that applies there would apply to the new district. There are no other changes other than this document shows you the changes in the document that we've made from the beginning. I have no other recommendations to change in the definition section. Definitions were the major thing that we changed in this document, and I made no changes or make no recommendations for changes from what you've already approved. So I'll move on to Chapter 2, if that's okay. Now we're on C9, Chapter 2, C9. Again, no changes that I am recommending here, except this will be the first of multiple, this is on page C11, multiple references to positions of profit. And what I'd like you to think about, and we don't have to change it before the public hearing, but I have put in here so the public will see that I've raised the question of redundancy. I will point them out every time we get to one. There's repetition of the positions of profit, that no one shall hold another position of profit. And I'd like to say at some point that what we should do, if we can, before we send it over to the council, is consolidate it into one position so it applies to everybody and it doesn't get repeated 6 times or 7 times. You'll see the number of times it gets repeated. I'm not going to suggest, but I don't want to hold things up beyond Monday. I want to get everything done for Monday, and I don't want to start messing with it. But I will, when we get together after the public hearing, I will show you a draft with what we will do with the positions of profit provision. I did not want to change it before Monday, if that's okay. Is that okay?
Fine for me.
All right. The next change, and this is not substantive, but it does modify things a little bit. It's a Scrivener's recommendation, but it was a Scrivener's recommendation I thought you all should have something to say about. This is on the vacancy. Remember, we consolidated all the vacancies. One of them had a 30-day turnaround where you actually had to fill the vacancy within 30 days. One of the problems with it is that if the vacancy occurs and we're putting the mayor as the intervening appointee, basically what I recommended here is that the mayor gets 30 days to make the nomination, and then there's 30 days that the council gets to approve. So it's going to change it to 60 days. It's still a pretty quick turnaround, but I thought it had to be addressed. Without it, it would, if you had to fill the vacancy within 30 days and there's no cap on the mayor's time, the mayor could give you the recommendation 20 days into it, and the council would only have 10 days to consider the nomination. So I put two 30-day provisions. We could shorten those. There's no science to 30. So you could shorten it to 15 and 15, whatever it may be. But with the meeting cycles of the council, it's hard to get things done in a 15-day period. And that's why I thought 30 and 30 made a great deal of sense. So those two things that are yellowed in were things I added to the consolidation that we did not talk about, and I wanted to raise it with you as a Scrivener's matter, but I thought it was enough of a substantive issue that you guys should, that the commission should rule on it.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion then. Motion by Member Idarola, second by Member Hosky, to accept Attorney Mednick's recommendation as discussed. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members. Let's move on to Chapter 3, the mayor, which starts on page C15. This is not a recommendation for action, but I want to ask the Corp Council to look at it as well. This is on page C17. There were annual reports in here. As I recall, there was some discussion. There was no resolution. We should probably, I have, my note is in or out. Are these reports that are currently done? You'll see I made the changes in it as if we're going to keep it. But I didn't know whether these were reports that are being done. So between now and our final action, again, the public knows that this is still up in the air, that we may come in with a recommendation at our last meeting. So I just wanted to give you a little preview on that. Is that?
I haven't been here a year yet, so I'm not sure what comes out of my department.
Yep.
I'll defer to the member of our council who's sitting here as our liaison if B, transmittal of summary annual report to the council, if that occurs regularly within 3 months of the end of the fiscal year. I don't know the answer to that. I would wager intelligently that if it does happen, it doesn't happen consistently across all departments.
I interpret that as that's the audit. That's what I interpret that. I don't think we've received anything specific besides the audit.
If it is the audit, then we should simply say it's the audit. That's what I...
Yeah, rather than annual report, I would say.
I would say that the audit is a legislative function, although this is in the mayor's section, is it not? That's odd. Yeah, it's in the mayor's section. The audit is a legislative function. And if that's what the intent is, we should probably make that more explicit. We don't have to change it tonight, but I just wanted to say that we'll look at that. And if that's in fact what it is, and I think that somebody else had said that to me, is Councilman Quagliani just said today, then maybe we should just change it to what it is. And we'll make that recommendation after the public hearing. But for the public sees it in yellow and they see whether it should be in or out. It gives them an opportunity to speak. And we're giving them notice that it's a section we're going to continue to look at after the public hearing.
Okay.
So no action on that. You're going to see another one of those profit sections at the beginning of the next chapter, the city council. And, I'll talk to the corporation council. I mean, there may be merit in keeping them in some of these where it's only mentioned once in the city council section. I just think I'd prefer to have it probably in chapter 1 as applying to all public officials who are full-time public officials, in effectively. And so that's another one of those for-profit language fixes that I'm going to recommend. There are no other changes in the chapter relating to the council. Again, in chapter 5, starting on page C26.
I've got a question, if we could go back. Sorry to interrupt. Back to C21. Section 3, subsection A, B, C, D, compensation of elected and appointed. Your comment 45 says constitutional limits should be referenced. I just wanted to unpack that a little bit.
Yes, we might add a clause in here. The way, and I'm literally going through, I had a conversation with one of my chief executives in Fairfield County today who got in trouble because the former town administrator gave her a cost of living increase every year. And while she would be entitled to a cost of living increase, chief elected officials are not entitled to increases every year. They're entitled to an increase that would be reflected in the first year of their term, or if it's a 4-year term, in the third year of their term. So the interest, the cost of living can accrue, but they can't take it except after the first year of their term or the third year of their term. And that's a constitutional standard. That's all it is. I mean, it's not necessary. That's why I didn't push it.
Okay.
If we want to add clarity, and I will tell you the charter in the town that we were dealing with did not have the language. I'm doing a charter revision there right now, and it will have the language. So we could say consistent with, well, I say in accordance with law, and that covers it. And this corporation council, your corporation council, will know it, and I would hope that many will. But somebody missed it in that particular town, so we could take that comment out.
Thank you.
Thank you for referencing it.
You were directing us to C27.
Yeah, I'm back on, again, both on C26 and 27 are those profit positions, restrictions on offices of profit. And it's basically you can't take a second job within the government. That's what it says. And so I don't see why we just can't say that once, applicable to a number of offices. That's, yeah, I agree. That's why I pointed it out. We should have taken it out earlier, but we kept doing more substantive things. Going into the chapter on appointed boards and commissions, we made a couple of the changes this evening. Oh, this week I do have something major to discuss. On page C38 and 39, the Corporation Council raised 2 questions relating to the standards. The first question he raised, and it's a good question, was whether the standard of a finding of good and sufficient cause by a majority vote of the entire membership of the City Council was too political a standard. Even though it's of the entire body, it is still it's still not a supermajority. It's just an actual majority of the entire body. And so and then the second question he raised had to do with the standards that we were laying out on willful misfeasance, willful neglect of duty, etc. And his question was, he thought maybe this was too nebulous. Maybe we should simply say a violation of ethics. So what I did is it caused me to look into my soul and examine my soul and to come up with an appropriate response. What I did do is I took a look around and on what other standards exist, and in the yellow language, I came up with two different standards that I think are sensible, that I've used in other communities. I did a quick AI check actually to the vice chair, and I was very proud to say that 2 of the 3 things in AI were from my charters I've worked on. So I was very, very flattered that was that Mr. AI or Mrs. AI recognized the Mednick charters. So that's cool. So what I was recommending to get around the question that the Corp Council raised on the political nature, what we've done in some communities, if you're going to throw somebody off, it should be a supermajority. And so the first standard would be 12 of the 15 members of the City Council need to approve.
13. So it's 9
of the
13.
Okay, I'm sorry. 9 of the 13. Actually, I was working on something for Hamden today. They're 15. 9 of the 13 would be your supermajority. So that gets around, I hope, the question that the Corp Council is raising about whether a political scheme could be laid that would be a partisan removal.
We did have discussion on language that was approved specific to what would follow the terms willful malfeasance and willful neglect of duty. It includes inability to serve, conviction of a felony after becoming a member, violation of the provisions of the charter, finding a violation of the Board of Ethics, change in status of elector. That buzzword may remind you, but we didn't have confirmation vote on what type or what level of approval. Affirmative vote of how many? Simple majority, supermajority is proposed here, and I think if we combine the two of those things, then it would certainly remove itself from the political nature of what could be terms that get wielded for power. I'm not suggesting anybody now would do that. And good and sufficient cause is a term of art that means a specific thing. Cause, dismissal for cause is a specific thing. But that being said, there's no reason not to get more specific if we agree to. The same thing I'll tell you now is what I told you before when you approved the list of reasons that people could be removed. When you begin to list things, the impossibility of listing literally everything means that now if you've purposely listed, in this case, 5 things, but not items 6 through everything else, then the argument is that, well, you could have put them in and you didn't, so you must have meant those to not be reasons for removal. We did vote on that and approve that to be put in. We can talk about it some more if you'd like, but I think Attorney Mendick's proposal to have it operable by a supermajority would alleviate that concern as well, because then you'd have to have a supermajority of people that can be reasonable and come to the same conclusion at the same time.
Yeah, and the alternate list of 7 includes a broad category 7, but we also have additional grounds that can be added by ordinance. So the charter is clear that you can add additional grounds for removal.
So we'll entertain a motion to approve your recommendations.
So moved.
Member Gilbert made the motion.
Second.
Second by
that addresses both of my
Vice Chair
concerns.
Perry. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members. Now we go to the department section. I don't think we might have a profit language here. Yeah, we have the profit language on page C47 relating to the tax collector. I'm just pointing them out for you. We have one on page C49 relating to the treasurer. Oh, yes, we do have something substantive on C49. Economic and community development functions. When I was putting the draft together, that, oh yeah, we have to fix the human resources thing too. Yeah, all right. When I was putting the draft together on economic development, I noticed that there was no economic development in the charter. It's dealt with in the ordinances, but I think we've had some discussion with the mayor regarding this section, and feels that we'd be better off just leaving it to the Code of Ordinances and not referencing it here. And so that was me and my my haste to be complete, and also to make sure. I also have told you I don't do cookie cutter charters. So if this has not been in the charter, there's not necessarily a reason to put it in the charter. So I would I'll defer to the Corp Council if I'm.
No, I agree. There's no statutory obligation that a municipality have one. I think part of the thing we're tasked with is figuring out that which must be done via charter. And if it can get done via ordinance, then that allows future governments to be more nimble.
So we would recommend that we delete
Yes.
Section 4, Economic and Community Development, and we obviously changed the numbers of the other remaining sections.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Gilbert. Second.
Second.
Second by Idarola. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
The next is an errata. We inadvertently changed human resources in what will now be section 4 on page C50. Am I correct on that?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes.
Human services, and it should be retained as human resources.
In that place, it is human resources personnel.
Yeah.
We got caught up in the very language change that we were trying to avoid.
Yeah.
So on C50, the red line you see in the title is being rejected, so to speak, such that human resources and personnel remains titled human resources and personnel, because I'll skip ahead for a moment, because the change that you see on C52, community service functions, that commissioner is now Commissioner of Health and Human Services.
That's where the change had to take place.
Yes.
So it was a mistake that carried through. So the other one's an errata. I don't know if you need to vote on it, but we just wanted to at least reveal that was a scrivener's error.
I don't see where it says health.
Yeah, it says that in my ink because I just penned it in, so we're going to have to add
All right.
that.
It's going to be Commissioner of Health and Human Services?
Yes, that's Health and Human Services all through.
All right, I'll fix that.
And you'll remember under that we have health, recreation, which is parks. We changed elderly to senior. We have youth, and we struck child and adult daycare centers. Family services and CDA do still operate there. I just want to turn your attention back one page to C51, so you'll see in red the Water Pollution Control Administrator. That's what we spoke about and voted on Tuesday. That's the language that you approved this evening. Attorney Mednick anticipated us.
I presumptively
and
did that.
The grammatical error that I made in there will also be corrected here.
It's already done. Okay. We made the change this evening in the police chief on page C54. Oh, I did have a question on page C57, and I'm sorry that Corp Counsel and I did not talk about this. As I was looking at Director of Planning and Zoning, most of the other positions say that they're appointed by somebody. This one does not. Is the Director of Planning and Zoning a civil service position? Is that why?
No, that's not tested. That's appointed by the mayor.
So it is appointed. So should we reference that it's appointed by the mayor? The mayor shall appoint. We'll use the same language. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
I had a mirroring question as well, going back. Sorry to go backwards, but 53, C53.
Before you move forward, I think we have a question regarding some of the wording.
In which one?
Do we have a Commissioner of Planning Development now?
Is her title Commissioner and not Director?
There's a Commissioner of Planning and Development and a Director of Planning and Zoning.
I hit it by mistake something. That. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, if you look right before that, the mayor shall appoint a commissioner. Is currently Kathy Conniff serves in the role
Correct.
that I'm thinking of.
Yes, correct.
Is her title Director or Commissioner?
That's what I don't know. It's not two positions though. It's one or the other, I think.
There's only two people in that office that I know of.
Yeah, but
They're not both Director and the other Commissioner.
Exactly, right.
No. So it could be.
Well, let's figure that out before we report the charter out.
This says the Director of Planning and Zoning shall exist in the absence of the Commissioner's position.
I think that a few years back, and I think that you may have been on the council at the time, Bridget, she changed the job descriptions from director to commissioner. I think that was the whole thought process behind some of the director positions were changed to commissioner positions.
Well, reading the entire section of land use and planning functions together, the commissioner is appointed by the mayor. The director shall exist in the absence of the commissioner's position.
It's an odd language. It's odd language.
It is odd, but if I were to read it plainly, it suggests that there would be no director if there is a commissioner. So if that's Kathy's position existing now, Kathy Coneft, I think she's Commissioner of Planning and Development, then there wouldn't be director. Although I will tell you, she certainly undertakes zoning as well, but you see that under her obligations or responsibilities in A.
Why don't we endeavor to figure that out before
Yes.
we report this out to the public? But it's at least in yellow so the public can see there's a question.
Yep. Okay.
You had something back?
I had something. Oh, yes.
C-53, I think.
On page C-53, above, B, Coordinator of Youth Services. It's got good language that I would like to recommend is mirrored in the Senior Services Coordinator.
Did you say 53 or 63?
53.
53.
I'm going backwards. I know we want to watch hockey games, but I am going backwards. I won't be long. The Youth Services Bureau Coordinator acts as municipal agent and shall administer all positive youth programs under the jurisdiction of the city and will adhere to all state mandates. I'd like to take that all positive programs under the jurisdiction and stick that at the end of the Senior Services Coordinator position. Rather than youth services, we're talking about senior citizens, elderly services, but positive elderly senior programs under the jurisdiction of the city and will adhere to all state mandates. We've talked a lot about consistency and mirroring. I don't think that that's a substantive change, but there seems to be no real reason that one shouldn't also mirror the other. Specifically, they're both under this Health and Human Services, so I don't know that one should be any different or read any different than the other.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion for that approval then, for that language put under, I'm sorry, say again, the elderly?
Yes, that's E, Senior Services Coordinator, powers and duties. We'll just mirror as closely
Mirror
as
the
it
Coordinator
can.
of Youth
Coordinator of
Services
Youth
Bureau.
Services Bureau, powers and duties.
I'll
I move
entertain a
that we-
motion.
Yep, I move that we mirror the language and assume that, well, we'll mirror the language, all positive.
I second.
Motion by Member Perry, seconded by Tagliatella. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you. You were at 57.
Yeah, we go into the next chapter. There's really, I have nothing else. If you take a look at section 10 on page C60, you'll see that I split up and came with a subheading on the Village Improvement Association, and the second one I created an A and B. Didn't change any of the verbiage, but just had a subtitle called Operation of the West Haven Public Library. So that's how. So it looks a little different than the language that the Corp Council handed out the other night, but it's literally identical, except I have a subtitle in it. Chapter 8, I finally fixed that. We've been carried 2 chapter 7s for most of the charter revision process. We finally cleaned that up just in time. No language changes there. None in, whoops, I didn't fix it in chapter 9. The next one is the initiative and referendum should be chapter Roman numeral 9. I will make that change. And the budget is chapter 10. We didn't make that change. I will make that change. But otherwise, I had no language changes. Oh, the only thing I did do on page C70, with your permission, you voted last time, is I took the definition of fiscal year out of section C6, section 6, under part A, just above part B, capital budget, and I moved it into the definition section. So it's still there, and you'll see in the defined term it references the current section of the charter. So it shows you that this is a term we've been using. We're just putting it into the definition section. Otherwise, and then you'll see in chapter 11, you'll see that we deleted the Village Improvement Association and moved it into the body of the document.
Yeah, that's on C60 now.
Yeah, C60.
Bottom of page C60.
Yep.
In chapter 7.
I did add some language here. I think it was in an earlier draft, but I just want to bring it to your attention because I'm seeing it right now. In chapter 11, which still says chapter 10, miscellaneous provisions, section 3, expense account. This language was in here, allows for reimbursements. And I added a proviso that notwithstanding any provision of this charter pertaining to compensation, members of boards and commissions who serve without compensation shall be reimbursed. And so I thought we should have that in there because we say throughout the charter they're not entitled to compensation. I wanted to make sure that this was not viewed inconsistently with it. So it makes a reference in spite of the fact that there is no compensation, they're entitled to reimbursement. So it's a minor change. And that's it. That's it for me on this.
Do you think you need a motion for that approval, or?
I put it in here, yeah, if you want to, you're going to be approving the whole document, but if you want to do that one, be my guest.
Well, we'll approve the whole document, I guess. Any questions before we entertain a motion of the attorneys?
Yes. So do we know how many ordinances will need to be updated with the new charter? Any?
No.
You will note as we go through there, we will note the sections of the charter that also have ordinances. And those are referenced. I think I didn't delete those.
I've seen some of them. I was just curious if there was.
Yeah, you need to think about that. I mean, and one of the things that might be looked at between now and the end of the process is whether or not you delete those sections of the charter, but we chose not to do that at this point. There's no way, but it will be a project somebody should look at. You might bring a law student on or something like that to look at it. A lot of towns do not do it, but let me just tell you something. The Corporation Council told you a few moments ago, within the last hour, that we have this wonderful case in the state of Connecticut that if you're doing business with a community, this is true of private sector businesses, it's true of the unions that work with the city, and your charter, your laws say something, and they end up not knowing that, it's held against them. They cannot argue that we have a valid contract with the city if the provisions of the charter do not support the conclusion that it's a valid contract. So what you want to avoid is inconsistencies within your charter and your laws. So I have recommended to a lot of communities that you really need to look at your ordinances. A lot of communities just don't, but you really need to look at it because it'll bite you somewhere that will not be pleasant somewhere down the line if there's a good lawyer on the other side when you try to hold a private sector person accountable for a failure to follow the charter. So you want to make sure your ordinances are consistent.
So I would assume Attorney Cassini would be the one to spearhead that with the council?
Yeah, we'll take them up. Some of them will show themselves to us, and others will be entirely obviated by the charter. But there will be many, that will need to be augmented, amended. And that's the process.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
They want to go home.
Yeah. Accept the draft report as presented and discussed. We have a motion by Member Hosky and a second by Member Garlock. I'm sorry, it was the other way around. Motion by Garlock, second by Hosky. Any other discussion? If all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Excellent work.
And excellent work on the attorney's behalf, too. You guys had tremendous amount of work to do here, and you did it in record time. Thank you.
And I will have for you on Monday, Mr. Chairman. I started working on it today, actually. I started working on the list of changes.
Okay.
I'm up to the definitions, which is a big deal. There's 28 definitions, so
Yeah.
so I got all those changed. But we'll,
Okay.
everything for Monday.
I'm sorry, say again? Next meeting is next Thursday, the 21st, which is a public input hearing. Yeah. So at 6 o'clock, I'm going to get together with Mike Walsh to come up with a press release to start educating the public and officials. And Attorney Cassini will make sure that this
Great.
draft is on the website.
It will be posted on the website. It'll have a link that can be shared. I encourage you all to do the same. Social media that the city operates will share it. I'm also going to have a number of copies that are printed downstairs in the clerk's office. When and if that runs out, clerk will tell me, and I'll print up more copies and we'll put them down there. There will be no reason that folks can, if they want to, make themselves knowledgeable about this process and the recommendations in the report.
Right. So our next meeting will be next Thursday, public input. We will meet again on May 28th to finalize if there's any changes that we want to make to it. And the 29th, we'll hand the report over to the city council. And our meetings will be determined by when they come back with their recommendations, if any.
I just want to confirm, we're not meeting on the 26th.
No, we're not meeting on the 26th. Any other discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Hosky, seconded by Garlick. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.